The story begins on a remote island where only one man lives. His name is Mason, and he spends his lonely days in a watchtower for many years. He has completely isolated himself from the rest of the world. His only companion is his loyal dog. Every week, a small boat arrives at the island carrying a man and a young girl named Jessie. They leave food and a small gift for Mason before quietly sailing away. Mason never speaks to them. He simply waits until they're gone, collects the supplies, and returns to his solitary life. The following week, Jessie comes back again, but this time, she isn't there just to deliver food. She wants to meet Mason and finally talk to him. She knocks on his door. Mason opens it and asks, "What do you want?" Jessie replies, "We've been bringing you food for so long, but you've never even said thank you. Why?" In a cold voice, Mason responds, "Don't ever come here again," before immediately shutting the door. Meanwhile, Jessie's uncle, who is waiting on the boat, shouts for her to hurry back because a violent storm is approaching. Jessie quickly gets into her small boat and heads toward him, but the powerful waves overturn her boat, and she begins to drown. Watching everything from his window, Mason doesn't hesitate for even a second. He dives straight into the ocean. He rescues Jessie first, whose leg has become badly trapped in a fishing net. Unfortunately, her uncle is trapped inside the boat, and Mason is unable to save him. Jessie's leg is badly injured, so Mason takes her to his home and treats her wounds. When she regains consciousness, the first thing she asks is about her uncle. With a sad expression, Mason tells her, "Your uncle is gone right now, you need to rest." Jessie then asks, "Did you call the police or tell anyone? My family must be looking for me." Mason calmly replies, "You don't have any family. Your uncle was the only one you had, and now he's gone. You're completely alone." Surprised, Jessie asks, "How do you know so much about me?" Mason explains that he and her uncle once served together in the Marine Corps. After saying this, he checks her injured leg and then leaves to catch fish, just as he does every day. Left alone in the house, Jessie quietly looks around until she finds a knife, which she secretly hides beside her for protection. That night, she is haunted by terrifying nightmares. As soon as Mason comes near her, she instantly points the knife at his throat, but Mason doesn't panic. Instead, he smiles and says, "You don't even know how to hold a knife properly." He then teaches her the correct grip and shows her a few basic self-defense techniques. Over the next few days, Mason takes great care of Jessie, treating her almost like his own daughter. He continues nursing her injuries so she can recover quickly while spending his free time working on his drawings. Slowly, Jessie begins to enjoy life on the island. She spends time playing with Mason's dog, and for the first time in a long while, she feels safe and happy. One day, Mason travels to the city avoiding security cameras as much as possible. He buys new clothes for Jessie. However, as he leaves the market, a few social media influencers accidentally capture him on camera without him realizing it. Meanwhile, in London, a man named Manafort is standing trial in court. He is accused of misusing MI6 technology to create an advanced AI called Thea, which leaked classified MI6 information and even became capable of analyzing national voting patterns. Because of the enormous security risk, the court orders that Thea must be shut down immediately. Manafort defends himself by saying that he created Thea only to help prevent crime, but the court refuses to listen to his explanation and decides to let him off with only a warning. The Prime Minister tells Manafort, "My hands are tied as well because the national elections are scheduled for next month, so I can't do anything right now." She also explains that MI6 Director Roberta is currently in charge of the entire operation, but as soon as she gets the opportunity, she will remove Roberta from her position and replace her with someone loyal to her. After saying this, she sends Manafort away. Meanwhile, Mason's face has already been captured by a group of influencers. While the image doesn't perfectly match the wanted man's profile, an alert is immediately triggered at MI6 headquarters. Roberta refuses to take any chances and orders the Alpha team to head to the location and arrest the suspect. Back on the island, Mason has already returned to his watchtower. He first checks on Jessie, changes the bandage on her injured leg, and the two of them quietly sit down for dinner. Suddenly, Mason senses that something isn't right. He realizes that a boat is approaching the island, and on such an isolated island, the arrival of an unknown boat can only mean trouble. Without wasting a second, Mason tells Jessie to hide inside the bathroom and not open the door until he tells her to. Then he steps outside to face whatever is coming. What the intruders don't know is that Mason has filled the entire island with deadly traps to keep strangers away. As soon as the Alpha team enters the island, Mason begins activating them one after another. Massive boulders come crashing down, some soldiers get caught in hidden nets and fall into the water, others are burned alive by fire traps, and the remaining agents are taken down by Mason's rifle within minutes. Almost the entire Alpha team is wiped out. Realizing the island is no longer safe, Mason decides to leave immediately. He takes Jessie with him, and although she has no idea what is happening, she trusts him and quietly boards the boat without asking any questions. When Roberta learns that her entire team has been eliminated, she assigns MI6's deadliest field agent, Workman, to hunt Mason down. Workman accepts the mission without hesitation. Meanwhile, Mason and Jesse reach the mainland by boat. Jesse notices that Mason is bleeding badly, but he completely ignores the injury and tells her not to worry about it. The two take shelter inside a nearby house there. Mason asks Jesse if she has ever fired a gun before. She says no, so Mason begins teaching her how to hold a firearm properly and pull the trigger, making sure she can protect herself if the situation becomes dangerous. At the same time, Manafort arrives at his office. The moment he turns on his computer, he discovers that the police have already launched an operation to capture Mason and that MI6 has sent Workman after him. He immediately sends Workman a secret message ordering him to eliminate both Mason and the girl. This reveals that Workman has actually been working with Manafort all along. The house where Mason is hiding belongs to a man who lives there with his young son. Shortly afterward, the father returns home and points a gun at Mason before the situation gets out of control. Jesse quickly points her gun back at him and says, "We only need a little medical help after that, we'll leave and won't hurt anyone." The man treats Mason's wounds, and Mason assures him that he has no intention of harming anyone. Unfortunately, the young boy secretly calls the police. His call is also traced to MI6 headquarters, prompting Roberta to immediately send Workman to the location. Mason has no idea that the authorities are already on their way, but just as he is about to leave the house, he notices several police vehicles surrounding the area. At that moment, the young boy admits that he was the one who called them. At the same time, when the boy's father steps outside, Workman shoots him without hesitation. Moments later, police officers begin storming the house. Mason fights them all alone. He blocks their attacks, disarms them, and injures several officers, but he deliberately avoids killing anyone because his only goal is to escape. After a long and brutal battle, Mason realizes that MI6 has sent its most dangerous operative to eliminate him. Without wasting another second, he steals a police vehicle and speeds away. But Workman immediately starts chasing him, firing continuously as they race down the highway. An intense high-speed car chase follows, ending with Mason forcing Workman's vehicle to flip over before escaping once again. A short distance later, Mason steals another vehicle and continues his escape. Meanwhile, Roberta receives shocking news that Roberta discovers something shocking. Mason's face doesn't match any official records at all. Because of this, she launches a deeper investigation into his past. After digging through old files, she learns that Mason once served in the Marine Corps, but according to official records, he died many years ago. Other than that, there is almost no information about him. Confused by this discovery, Roberta immediately calls Manafort and asks, "What do you know about Mason? I heard he used to work for MI6 Manafort replies, "Yes, Mason was MI6's most dangerous agent. He could complete missions that no one else could, so I once assigned him to a very important operation, but instead of completing the mission, he sided with the target and betrayed MI6. After that, I sent the entire agency after him, but he disappeared without a trace and was never seen again." After ending the call, Roberta visits an officer named Maddie and asks her to retrieve all the files related to Mason's final mission. As she reviews the old records on the laptop, she discovers that MI6 had sent Mason to assassinate an Iranian scientist who was working on advanced nuclear technology, but instead of killing the scientist, Mason chose to protect him. Now the truth slowly begins to unfold before Roberta. However, she has no idea that Manafort is secretly watching everything through a hidden camera installed inside the office. The moment he realizes that Roberta is getting dangerously close to the truth, he knows he has to act quickly. Meanwhile, Mason and Jesse continue their journey by car. During the drive, Jesse asks, "Have you always lived alone? Don't you have any family?" Mason quietly replies, "No, I don't have anyone. I'm completely alone." Jesse then asks, "Didn't you ever want a wife or children?" Mason gives a faint smile and says, "Having a family only makes life more complicated. That's why I never wanted one." Jesse then shows him a drawing she made of his loyal dog and says, "You were never really alone. You always had your best friend beside you." Hearing those words, Mason falls silent for a few moments. A little later, they arrive in a busy city. Mason tells Jesse to cover her face because surveillance cameras are everywhere. The two walk through the streets with their faces hidden, but unfortunately a passing car's dashcam records both of them. Before the footage reaches MI6 headquarters, it first appears on Manafort's private system. He immediately deletes the file and then sends Mason and Jesse's exact location to his men, ordering them to eliminate both of them before anyone else can find them. Meanwhile, Mason heads straight to a church where his old friend Booth is living. Booth welcomes both of them into his home while Jesse is looking around the kitchen. Booth searches Mason's records on his computer and reveals something horrifying. Someone has replaced your face with that of one of the world's most wanted terrorists, a man accused of carrying out a deadly bombing. Because of that, MI6 believes you're responsible for the attack, and now nowhere in the country is safe for you. The moment Mason hears this, he realizes that the entire conspiracy has been orchestrated by Manafort. He then asks Booth to keep Jessie with him, believing she will be much safer there. But Booth refuses. Just then, Jessie walks out of the kitchen and says, "I know you have cancer, you're taking the exact same medicine my mother used before she passed away." Booth finally admits the truth and says, "I only have a few days left to live, that's why you both need to go to Kamal, he's the only person who can help you escape this country." But at that very moment, Mason senses that something is wrong. Workman has already found them. Without warning, Workman attacks Mason, and an intense hand-to-hand fight breaks out. Since both men were once MI6 top operatives, one ranked number 1 and the other number 2, the battle is incredibly fierce. After an exhausting fight, Mason finally manages to defeat Workman and escapes the area with Booth in a car. After driving a safe distance, Booth stops the vehicle and says, "From here on, you'll have to continue on your own, this is all the help I can give you." Mason thanks his old friend and leaves with Jessie. As they continue their journey, Jessie sadly says, "I know you want to send me away, but I want to stay with you for the first time in so many years. I finally feel like I have someone who truly cares about me, and I don't want to lose you." Taking a deep breath, Mason replies, "Please try to understand, staying with me isn't safe at all because..." A large police force is still hunting Mason, but Jessie refuses to leave him behind. Meanwhile, Roberta asks her colleague Maddie, "Why haven't we found Mason yet? Where is he?" Maddie explains that an unknown user recently logged into the MI6 system. After tracing the login, she discovers that it was actually Manafort. He is deliberately interfering with their investigation because he doesn't want them to continue digging into the mission. At the same time, Mason arrives at a nightclub. He fights his way past several guards and demands to be taken to Kamal. The guards eventually bring him before Kamal, a powerful crime boss who runs the nightclub while secretly controlling several illegal operations. Mason tells him, "I need to get out of this country, please help me by arranging fake passports so I can take this little girl somewhere safe." At first, Kamal refuses, but Mason reminds him of all the favors he has done for him in the past. After thinking for a while, Kamal finally agrees. He arranges fake passports along with a large amount of cash and tells Mason, "Go to the river, my men will be waiting there, they will help you cross the border safely." As Mason and Jessie prepare to leave, Mason suddenly realizes that armed men have surrounded the club. He immediately understands that Manafort has sent them. Without hesitation, Mason fights them one by one, taking down everyone who stands in his way. During the chaos, however, one group manages to grab Jessie and force her into a black SUV. Mason desperately fights through dozens of attackers, eliminating Manafort's men one after another. Finally, he reaches the vehicle just in time and rescues Jessie. He steals a motorcycle, and the two of them speed away. But Workman is still on their trail. He jumps onto another motorcycle and begins chasing them at full speed. After a dangerous chase, Mason finally reaches the riverside where a boat is waiting. Looking at Jessie, he says, "You have to leave now, I can't come with you." Jessie shakes her head and pleads, "Please don't do this, you have to come with me." But Mason knows that staying with her will only put her life in even greater danger. As the boat reaches the shore, he gently pushes Jessie aboard. Kamal's men immediately take the boat and sail away with her. Just then, gunfire erupts. Workman has arrived. The two exchange several shots before Mason says, "Why don't we settle this without guns?" Workman accepts the challenge, and the two former MI6 agents engage in one final brutal hand-to-hand fight. Although Mason is much older, he hasn't lost his skills. In fact, his experience gives him the upper hand over the younger Workman. Using a heavy chain wrapped around a metal pipe, Mason finally defeats and kills Workman, ending the deadly rivalry once and for all. Meanwhile, back at Manafort's mansion, Manafort realizes that all of his security guards have been killed. Before he can react, Mason walks into the room. Looking directly at him, Mason says, "Now it's your turn." Knowing that Manafort will never stop hunting him as long as he is alive, Mason shoots and kills him. A few months later, the story shifts to Spain. Jessie is now living a peaceful life, but MI6 agents are still secretly monitoring her through surveillance cameras. They believe that if Jessie is there, Mason cannot be far away. One day, Jessie receives a small gift. The moment she opens it, she immediately realizes that it was sent by Mason. Although Mason never reveals himself, he continues watching over her from a distance, silently protecting her without letting her know. And with that, this action-packed movie comes to an end. We hope you enjoyed today's movie explanation. If you want more exciting action movie recaps like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Until next time, stay happy, stay safe, and thank you for watching.